In this video, we are going to be looking at some word problems that require you to use fraction multiplication and division to solve them. So I'm going to be going through how exactly you do this. Here are two example problems that you could find where you would need to solve them using fraction multiplication. So for the first one, during a TV show, 1/3 of the show length is commercials. 3/4 of the commercials are for products to buy. What fraction of the show length is commercials for products to buy? So when I'm looking at these word problems, I'm going to look for the fractions that I need to use, or the numbers that I need to use. So I see 1/3 of the show length is commercials, and 3/4 of the commercials. So I don't know, so it says 1/3 of the show length. I don't know how long the show is, but it does say 3/4 of the commercials. I do know what fraction is commercials. Of the commercials, I know 1/3 are commercials. So here, in order to solve this problem, I'm going to be doing 3/4 of, and instead of commercials, I can change it to 1/3, since I know 1/3 of the show is commercials. Now, if you watched my video about how to represent fraction multiplication with area models or number lines, you would have seen that I mentioned that whenever you have of with fractions, it always means times. So this problem here I could change to 3/4 times 1/3. Now this is something I can solve pretty quickly. I multiply the numerators and then I multiply the denominators. 3 times 1 is 3, 4 times 3 is 12. Then lastly, I'm going to simplify. I can divide both the top and the bottom by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So our question, what fraction of the show length is commercials for products to buy? The answer would be 1/4 of the show. And now here is another example problem where you would need to use fraction multiplication. So the problem is, Taylor reads every day for 2/3 of an hour. If she reads this amount for 7 days in a row, how many hours did she read altogether? So this one, I'm noticing I have one fraction and a whole number. So I'm going to think for a second about what this problem is asking me to do. So it says that Taylor reads for 2/3 of an hour. And she does this for 7 days. She does this 7 times. Oh, so this is like doing times 7. She reads 2/3 of an hour 7 different times. So I'm going to be doing 2/3 times 7. So in order to solve this, when I'm working with fractions, if I have any whole numbers, I don't want whole numbers. I need to change them into one single fraction. So in order to change any whole number into a fraction, I just need to write a 1 underneath like this. And now I can solve. So I can do 2 times 7 is 14, 3 times 1 is 3. Then all I need to do is change this into a mixed number. So 3 goes into 14, well 3 times 4 is 12, so that would leave 2 left over, 4 2/3. So for our question, how many hours did she read altogether? Our answer would be 4 2/3 hours. Now here are two problems that you would solve using fraction division. Here's the first one. Max has 4/5 of a pizza left over. He decides to share it equally among 3 friends. How much of the whole pizza will each friend get? So I'm going to, before I do anything else, look at the numbers I have and see what this problem is telling me. So I'm noticing he has 4/5 of a pizza and he's sharing it among 3 friends. So I could draw a picture to help me solve this. He has this much of a pizza and he's going to share it among 3 friends. So somehow I would need to split this amount into 3 groups. Oh, I noticed when I said that, I'm splitting it up. I'm dividing it, I'm splitting it, dividing it into groups. So whatever I have, what do I start with? Well, he starts with 4/5 of a pizza. That's how much Max has at the very beginning. He has 4/5 of a pizza. And then he splits it up, he breaks it into pieces, he divides it up. And how many people is he sharing it with? How many pieces will he have to split it into? He'll have to split it into 3 pieces to share with his friends. So I'm doing 4/5 divided by 3. And now this is a problem I can solve using how we solve fraction division, which if you watched my fraction division video, you would have seen I talked about keep, change, flip. I keep this, I change this to multiplication, and I flip this. But in order to flip this, just like I've been saying in every single one of my videos in this unit, if I'm working with fractions, I need to make sure both of these numbers are fractions. If there are any whole numbers, I need to change them into fractions. I have 3 wholes here, so I need to change this into a fraction. How do I change whole numbers into fractions? I simply write a 1 underneath. Okay, now that I have 2 fractions, I can do the keep, change, flip. Then I just solve like normal. 4 times 1 is 4, 5 times 3 is 15. So to answer the question here, how much of the whole pizza will each friend get? Each person will get 4/15 of the pizza. Next problem. Harry can run a lap in 3/4 of an hour. How many laps can he run in 1 hour? So let's see what I have in my problem. Well, he runs 3/4 of an hour for 1 lap, and we want to figure out how many laps he can run in 1 hour. So if I were to draw a picture of this, let's pretend this whole circle is 1 hour. In 3/4 of an hour, he runs 1 lap. So there's this extra 1/4 of an hour. So he's not going to run a whole lap because a whole lap takes him 3 of these fourths and there's only 1/4 left. But he can run part of a lap. So let's think about what I'm doing here. I'm taking this whole, and I'm seeing how many times 3/4 can fit inside of it. Oh, so I'm dividing it into groups that are how big? 3/4 big. I'm seeing how many times this group, that's 3/4, will fit inside of 1. So the group size I'm making is 3/4. So I'm dividing 1 by 3/4, taking the whole and seeing how many times 3/4 fits inside of it. So now, just like up here, I'm going to solve by doing keep, change, flip. But also, like I said, I can't do the keep, change, flip until I have 2 fractions. And I'm noticing I have a whole number here. So I need to change it to a fraction. Put a 1 over it. Now I can do the keep, change, flip. So I keep, I change, I flip. Now I will solve like normal. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I just need to simplify. 3 goes into 4 one whole time with 1 left over. So to answer our question, how many laps can he run in 1 hour? He can run 1 1/3 laps. Now here are 4 example problems for you to try on your own. I have one of each type that we talked about, so that means 2 multiplication and 2 division of fractions. However, I mixed up the order, so you don't know which one's going to be fraction multiplication and which one's going to be fraction division. So you'll have to read the problems carefully. I went with kind of a food theme here, so you can hopefully enjoy that. So your job now is in a minute to pause the video, and you're going to read the 4 questions, solve them, and when you have your 4 answers, you can play the video again to check your answers. So go ahead and pause it now. Here are the answers that you should have gotten. So Amelia has 1/3 of a pan, and she eats 1/2 of what is left. Well, how much is left? 1/3. So I can change it to 1/2 of 1/3, which I can just solve by multiplying to get 1/6 of the pan. The next one, he has a mug that holds 3/5 of a cup, and we want to figure out how many times this 3/5 fits inside of 1. So if I have a hole, I want to figure out how many times will a group that is the size 3/5 fit inside of a hole. So I'm seeing how many times this fits inside of this. So I'm dividing. So 1 divided by 3/5. I can first change it to a fraction, then I keep, change, flip to get 1 2/3 mugs. The next one, Louisa has 7/8 of a box, and she shares it among 5 friends. So what does she start with? 7/8, and she's sharing it, so she's splitting it up or dividing it into 5 groups. So to solve it, I changed the 5 wholes into a fraction, and then I do keep, change, flip, and I get my answer of 7/40 of the box. Then the last one, Marco eats 1.5 kiwis every day at lunch, and he does this 9 times. So I'm doing 1.5 times 9. So in order to solve this, I need to get rid of the whole numbers by changing them to fractions. So I change 1.5 to an improper fraction, 3/2, and 9 I change to 9/1, and solve to get 13.5 kiwis. If you made any mistakes on any of these 4 problems, go back and check your work and see where exactly you made your mistake and how you could fix it to get the correct answer. So hopefully you have a little bit of a better understanding now of how to do fraction multiplication and division when you are working with word problems.